Everything irritated her. Just constant annoying bullying. Did she really think that if she acted like this, others would start caring about her? It was really disgusting. Hadn't she warned her not to show her disgusting face again? But the girl still didn't understand. Was it really that bad? One of the girls waved her hand and told her to stop making that silly face. This disgusting slap on the face was unpleasant and painful, as always. She didn't understand because she was innocent why she looked like that. All that was left for her was to endure and cry in a quiet corner. The girls had done their part and decided to walk away from her. Why was there no one who understood her? Like a good friend. But perhaps such a person didn't exist in nature. Unexpectedly, a girl approached her and asked how she was feeling, if everything was okay. The upset girl lifted her head and noticed a student in front of her who was concerned about her well-being. Could it be that she had finally met someone who would understand her and accept her for who she was? School was hard for her, and her depressed state made it difficult to absorb new information. She was tired and didn't realize she had fallen asleep during the break. She woke up when someone threw a paper ball at her. She always drooled when she slept. They asked if she wasn't going to lunch, or else she'd sleep through all the lessons and called her a shorty. She let out a deep breath, but it was good that those guys had woken her up because she definitely would have slept through all the afternoon classes. Despite the fact that her classmates weren't kind, she had finally started her life as a real high schooler. She had finally entered the same school as Rishchan. She thought that the start of her life as a high schooler could turn for the better. Finally, she noticed Rishchan. She was standing near the school, waving at her. "Hey, are you lost?" she shouted. She approached her, apologized, and said she just couldn't find her. Rishchan smiled. She couldn't find her either and had been searching around the school grounds for a while. She noticed that Aiko was late today, so she thought she might be having some trouble. But since nothing happened, she suggested her go eat something delicious. The cafeteria was noisy, as many students had arrived at the same time for lunch. They got their lunch. Rishchan asked why the girl was late today. Was she very busy, and why hadn't she written to her? Aiko explained that she just decided to sleep a bit during class. But it was good that the boys woke her up. Rishchan asked if she had made any friends. But the girl meant just classmates. If someone like her could find a friend, that would be wonderful. Maybe it was because she always looked like she was seeking attention. Rishchan listened carefully, not understanding why her friend was considered unattractive and a shorty. She looked like an ordinary girl, a little shorter in height with big green eyes. Even if she behaved normally, they probably thought she was pretending to be pitiful. So, no one wanted to approach her, and everyone avoided her. On the other hand, she didn't pay attention to what others said. She knew she said strange things that not everyone could understand. Rishchan continued eating, listening to her friend, not understanding why the girl spoke poorly of herself. But now she had Rishchan, the only close friend who had been by her side since middle school. Even though there was a 1-year age difference between them, they were never bored together. Rishchan had an interesting idea. She suggested they go to the gym together. She could teach her how to play basketball. She wanted her to try something new and not focus so much on her problems. Aiko thought for a moment, wondering if she really needed this. After all, she had never been interested in sports games. Play basketball? She thought it wasn't for her at all, but her friend managed to convince her to try the interesting game. Maybe she would like it, and they could go to training together. Rishchan held her hand and walked confidently, believing that a game like basketball couldn't fail to please her friend. She was nervous, though, as she didn't even know how to play. But her friend didn't make her play professionally. They could start by just having fun. Still, the girl had doubts about whether it would look normal. They passed by the girl's classmates. Rishchan, standing close by, reassured her that everything was fine, and there was nothing to be afraid of. One of the girls called out to her. Aiko felt embarrassed and didn't know what they wanted from her. Laughing, they addressed Rishchan, asking if she was really going to play with her little sister. Hearing the taunts from her classmates behind them, they stopped. The girl asked Rishchan not to pay attention to those people and suggested they walk away from them quickly. One of the guys wondered if being her babysitter wasn't a waste of time. Besides, she always clung to her pitifully. He suggested leaving her friend alone. Did she not irritate her? And why were they so close? Were they connected by something more? The boy's mocking shouts irritated Rishchan. She grabbed him by his shirt and roughly told him to shut up. Did he really think it was funny to mock them? She really wanted to slap him in the face. Laughing, he said, "Did he really need to defend himself? Was this all true? And what could a girl like her possibly do to him? She told him he didn't need to wait long to find out what she was capable of. Rischan was determined, and this boy had really gotten on her nerves. She always knew how to stand up for herself and didn't like insults aimed at her. Why did her friend, who was being insulted, still try to stop her? Eiko didn't want them to have trouble with those people, so she asked her friend to stop. He was sure they wouldn't do anything to him and continued with his nasty remarks. She agreed and let go of the boy. For her friend's sake, if something like this happened again, she wouldn't let them go without consequences. She took her friend's hand, confidently telling Eiko not to worry. Everything would be fine. But the girl was worried and wanted her to forget about what had just happened. After the incident, the classmates weren't in a good mood. It seemed like those two were annoying everyone more with each passing day. When Rischan let the boy go, he couldn't hold himself up and fell into the bushes. He looked pathetic and begged for help to get back on his feet. The boy was outraged, wondering why his friends were taking so long to help him up. Being so weak compared to the girls, he considered them to be useless company. The girls arrived at the gym for the basketball game. Eiko was watching the game for the first time. She stood off to the side, observing the boys playing basketball. She didn't understand the rules of the game at all, what they were supposed to do, or where to throw the ball. She noticed one boy who was very skilled with the ball. He seemed quite attractive to her. He must have been a good player since he made the basket so often. She wasn't paying attention to the game. Instead, she was focused on the boy. His moves were so graceful, she didn't even realize she couldn't take her eyes off him. It was amazing. She even started to like the game. The boys finished the game and headed to the locker room. One of them was upset, irritated that he had lost again to the handsome guy. The boy stood to the side, feeling very thirsty after the game. Every move the boy made seemed beautiful to Eiko. She couldn't take her eyes off him. She was even willing to come every day to the game just to see that handsome guy again. Rischan noticed that her friend was interested in the basketball player. She asked if everything was okay. Eiko didn't even notice when she dropped the ball from her hands. She was standing there, having dropped the ball from her hands. Eiko wanted to bend down and pick up the ball. Rischan grabbed her friend, noticing that she was staring at the two handsome boys. She was curious which one Eiko liked more. The boys were indeed handsome and had a great athletic build. Rischan asked, does she prefer blondes or brunettes? She thought one of them might be Eiko's type. The girl pretended not to understand what Rischan was talking about. She made excuses, insisting that neither of them interested her. She was just lost in her thoughts, not falling for anyone at first sight. She figured it was time to leave. Rischan apologized to her friend, saying it was a bad joke. The handsome blonde seemed to have also noticed the girls. Hey Ryu, want to play another round? Asked the brunette. There were about 20 minutes before class started. He didn't want to just sit and wait, especially not to lose to him in just one round. The girl answered for the blonde, saying that Ryu was tired and didn't want to play with such a loser. Someone needed to play alone. The guy didn't understand what was wrong with this girl, why she was acting so boldly. The girl said that she was already tired and that she was bored. She said that she and Ryu would return to the class and the guy could stay and play by himself. But Ryu didn't want to return to class. He decided to play another round. He said he wasn't leaving and didn't like people who spoke for others. The brunette stuck out his tongue at her, saying that Ryu didn't think the same as she did, and now she'd be waiting alone in the class. She gave him the middle finger and told him to get lost. They started the next round. The boy was banging the ball loudly on the floor. Eiko couldn't take her eyes off the boys. She watched them with an intense gaze. Rischan asked her if something was bothering her since she had been silent for a while. Eiko reassured her that everything was fine. She was just thinking about how everyone looked so happy while playing basketball. Even though she didn't know how to play, it was interesting to sit here and watch. Coming here and changing the scenery after class was a good idea. Suddenly, one guy noticed Risa, greeted her, and asked if they could chat for a bit. They both got distracted from the game by other boys who noticed them. Eiko asked her friend who they were. Rischan replied that they were guys from her club and that she needed to talk to them for a bit. She suggested Eiko find something to do, as she would be back quickly. They asked if the girl was free after school. They had a club meeting and wanted the girl to join. She didn't mind and agreed to attend the meeting. Eiko continued her thoughts, noticing that her friend was very different from her. The school year had just started, and she had already joined a club and met many guys. But why couldn't she do the same as her friend? While Risa-chan was talking, Eiko thought about what she could do in the meantime. She decided to try playing a little. She grabbed the ball and walked over to the hoop. She was too short, and it seemed to her that the hoop was too high. She tried to throw the ball for the first time. She missed on her first try, hitting the wall next to the hoop. She knew she would never be able to make a shot. This made her feel sad. She heard a warning, looked back, and noticed the ball coming straight at her. She didn't do anything, just stood there, watching as the ball got closer. It was already very close, and the girl froze, standing still for some reason. She widened her big green eyes, realizing the ball was about to hit her face. At the last second, the handsome blonde guy managed to catch the ball just before it hit her face. While saving her, he pushed her back. The girl was outraged, wondering why he pushed her. He managed to deflect the ball, and it didn't hit Aiko in the face. Everyone turned their attention to the incident, realizing it was just an accident. They lost their balance and both fell to the floor together. Aiko couldn't take her eyes off the guy. She couldn't believe he was so close to her. His face was too close to hers. The guy noticed that the girl couldn't take her eyes off him and felt a bit embarrassed. They were asked if they were okay. Maybe they needed help. Aiko paused for a moment, thinking that basketball probably wasn't her game, and maybe she shouldn't have even tried. The girl said she was fine, just her arm hurt a little. The guy apologized, saying it was his bad throw. He promised he would be more careful next time. He was worried about her and offered to help her get up, but she refused, saying she could stand up by herself. She thanked him for his care. The other girls smiled, but they didn't like the attention the guy was giving her. For the first time, Aiko was so close to a guy and could look him straight in the eyes. At that moment, her friend was approaching. She was worried and felt guilty for leaving her alone. She stretched out her hand to help her get up. Risa-chan said she couldn't leave her alone for even a minute because whenever she was by herself, something always happened. Aiko assured her that nothing serious happened, just a little mishap because she was clumsy. She wanted to get up but noticed her phone lying on the floor. But upon closer inspection, she realized that it wasn't her phone. It probably belonged to her savior. When he tried to save her, it must have fallen out of his pocket. Why was he playing basketball with his phone in his pocket? It could have broken or gotten lost. But guys always keep their phones in small pockets because they don't feel the need to hide anything from people. She always kept her phone close to her with a reliable password because her classmates might take it and read her personal messages in front of the whole class. She went outside. She needed to find the handsome blonde guy. She decided to go to school to search for him in the classroom. The girl called the guys to find out when they were going to return. Their next lesson was with a very strict teacher. If they were late, they would have to stand at the front of the class for the entire lesson as punishment. Why had they been smoking for so long? She didn't like it. She thought it was bad for their health. The handsome guy approached her and asked if she had accidentally taken his phone. She was surprised by his question since she always told people to watch over their belongings. Was he out of his mind? She couldn't have taken his phone, but it had happened before that she had taken his phone. If it wasn't her, then who? He wondered. Yes, she had taken it once, but this time she had nothing to do with the phone's disappearance. She was offended by such questions. Even if she had taken the phone, she would have returned it to its owner. Maybe he took it to the gym and it fell out while he was playing basketball. Indeed, friends had seen it in his pocket. If it was lost, it was only because of his clumsiness. The girl asked if he was going back to the gym. After all, the next lesson was about to begin. Ryu walked away without looking back. He was tired of her constant questions, ones he didn't want to answer. He was heading back to the gym, hoping he could find his phone. While walking, he tried to remember when he last had it in his hands. The phone was nowhere to be found, but it had to be somewhere around here. The girl said it hit him to forget about the phone. His father was very rich, and the guy could probably ask him for money for a new one. Besides, she didn't want to be late because of him. She was about to return to the class. Meanwhile, the guys continued their search without her. She didn't want to be punished because of their irresponsibility. They couldn't figure out where it could have gone in such a short time. And there weren't many people in the gym who could have taken his item. His friend asked what he was going to do now. Everyone else was already heading to class. He probably had to forget about the phone. He likely wouldn't find it. He tried to forget about it and was about to head to the lesson. They were heading to the exit of the gym, but behind them there was a noticeable sound of footsteps. Someone was catching up to them. It was the small, clumsy girl trying to catch up with them. They stopped, surprised, wondering what she wanted from them. The handsome guy waited for her to catch up to them with her little legs. She stood next to them, once again embarrassed, unable to look away. Finally, she reached into her pocket and asked if this was his phone. She found it after he had helped her. She was so nervous that she couldn't pull it out of her pocket. Finally, she pulled it out, holding it in her hands and stared at it. Then, holding it tightly with both hands, she handed the phone to the guy. "Thank you so much for helping me," she said, as without his help, she could have been in big trouble. She spoke, but avoided eye contact. It seemed the handsome guy didn't want to listen to her. He abruptly snatched the phone out of her hands. Eiko was surprised. The guy was acting rudely and roughly. His gaze was condescending, and he looked angry and unbearable. She didn't understand. Had she done something wrong to him? Why was he looking at her like that? Another brunette was surprised. He hadn't expected this behavior from him. He could have simply thanked the girl for finding and returning his phone. The guy turned and told her to ignore his friend's behavior. They were in a hurry for class and thanked her for everything. She assured him that everything was fine. She wasn't offended and even understood him, but inside, she felt bad. No matter what she did, everyone around her seemed to hate her. Was she really that ugly and bad? Risa-chan said that she had done the right thing by returning the phone to its owner. They needed to go, as they were also running late. She agreed with her friend, understanding that there was no point in dwelling on it. The lesson had already started, and the teacher was explaining a new topic that he considered very difficult. The handsome blonde boy looked upset and wasn't paying attention to the teacher's explanations at all. The teacher said he would review all the formulas and randomly ask questions to the students. Suddenly, the boy whispered to the girl, telling her to stop playing with her phone, or else the teacher might punish her. "Why?" she replied. There were many students here, and the teacher might not pick her. What worried the guy more was that the teacher might notice and take away Mommy's phone. The girl replied that she wasn't the type of person who would go crazy without her phone. It wasn't a big problem for her, as she had many phones just in case. She cast a meaningful glance at Ryu. She noticed the guy was deep in thought and not paying attention to what was happening in the class. Could it be that he was so upset about losing his phone? Unexpectedly, he turned to the teacher and said that Mommy wasn't focused on the lesson and was playing with her phone. The teacher stopped his explanation, and the other students turned around and stared at them. The girl screamed that it was not true, but the teacher didn't believe her, telling her not to justify herself, as he had also noticed that she was distracted by her phone. As punishment after class, she had to collect the classmates' assignments and deliver them to the teacher's office. Mommy was angry and wondered why he had been so cruel to her. It was very annoying. The guys here were strange. She wanted a friend, not these idiots. After collecting all the students' papers, she headed to the teacher's office to carry out her punishment. On her way, the boys were rushing toward the game center. As they ran past, they bumped into Mommy, and all of her papers fell. Everything scattered across the floor. She didn't understand what was wrong with them, why everyone was behaving so senselessly. All the boys in this school were tactless and had no respect for others. It really irritated her and made it hard to study peacefully. Risa-chan was once again busy with club activities today, and it looks like Aiko will have to go shopping herself. As Aiko walked down the long corridor of the school, lost in thought, she noticed Mommy sitting on the floor, angrily gathering all the students' papers. She muttered something under her breath, clearly annoyed, and shot an angry look at the girl. Aiko wasn't sure if she should offer help, as Mommy didn't seem to want to talk to her, nor accept help from her. She didn't understand the boys who bumped into the girl, caused damage, and yet just passed by without even apologizing. Aiko understood her very well, as she was equally angry at the students who constantly bullied her. Mommy didn't like the teacher's punishment, although she knew she deserved it. Aiko offered to help and started picking up the students' papers along with Mommy. Mommy was surprised. She didn't think anyone would offer her help. She had always treated everyone arrogantly, which is why she didn't have any friends. These were papers with homework from students who had been held back a year. They could be in the same class as Risa-chan. Mommy didn't know that Aiko could be a kind person. Until now, she had considered her strange, reserved, and closed off. "Thank you for your help," Mommy said, smiling. Even her mood had improved, and the punishment didn't feel as tough. Aiko didn't think she had done anything special. Showing kindness didn't require thanks. She handed her the papers she had gathered from the floor. It seemed like they had collected everything. They often saw each other at school, but Mommy still didn't know her name. Finally, she decided to ask and said that she looked like a freshman. The girl said her name was Aiko. The conversation was interrupted by a phone call. The girl apologized and decided to take the call. Pulling the phone out of her pocket, she stared at it and couldn't believe her eyes. Why was she being called at this moment when she was busy talking? It was Ryu calling. He asked what she was up to and why she was so slow. Eiko enjoyed talking to Mommy, but she had to leave because she still had other things to do. Mommy got upset because the call had ruined her conversation with her new acquaintance. Eiko stood up and said that she had to go. The girl reluctantly agreed and wished her the best. She was holding the phone and asked Eiko to wait. The girl was upset that Ryu called at such an inconvenient time. Eiko remembered that she had planned to go to the store. She needed to check what time it was and whether she would make it before closing. She needed to hurry before it got too late. She quickly headed to the shopping center. She recalled what she was supposed to buy. It was probably everything she had planned to get. She didn't think she had forgotten anything. She didn't have time to go back if she had forgotten something. Plus, the shopping mall was far from the dorm. Eiko mentally double-checked everything once more and headed to the checkout. The cashier said she needed to pay 1,850 yen for her purchase. It was much more expensive than she thought. She had expected a big discount. As she left the shopping mall, she was worried because she hadn't planned on spending that much money today. She knew she'd have to settle for a light snack with a discount for dinner. She went to her favorite cafe where she could eat cheaply and deliciously. Meanwhile, Mommy was sitting with her friends at the cafe, and one of the guys commented that her mood changes at the speed of light, pointing out that she was upset when Ryu called her. She agreed, saying she was angry and upset at that moment, but now she was happy because she was enjoying a tasty meal. She continued to enjoy her delicious dinner, but after a while, she noticed the girl. It was the girl from school who had helped her collect the students' papers today. The guys surprised and didn't understand what was going on. They knew that Mommy never spoke to other girls from school. Ryu asked in surprise where Mommy was going. The girl stood up, said she would be back quickly, and went toward her new acquaintance. She tried to catch up with her, but she had forgotten her name, so she had to shout, "Hey, you girl!" Finally, she caught up with her and grabbed her by the shoulder. Eiko didn't expect to see Mommy in the shopping mall, so she was surprised when she saw her. Mommy asked if she remembered her. She was the girl who helped her collect the papers today. Of course, Eiko remembered her and was happy to meet her again. Mommy really wanted to thank the girl, so if she wasn't busy, she invited her to have dinner together. She said her friends were nearby, so she didn't have to worry about anything. They went to the place where Mommy was sitting with her friends. Guys, today we have a guest. Eiko felt awkward because she barely interacted with them. Plus, they were savoring expensive dishes, and she didn't even have enough money for a cheap snack. The friend she had mentioned was the guy who had saved her at the basketball game. She felt uncomfortable, especially since she was sitting across from the handsome blonde guy. Mommy noticed that Eiko felt uncomfortable. She reassured her, saying it was fine, and told her to make herself comfortable. "Is this the girl who found Ryu's phone?" one of them asked. He introduced himself, saying his name was Nishida Sho, second-year student from Class A. He was happy to meet her. The girl introduced herself as Seramami and mentioned that she and Sho were in the same class. The guy next to Sho wasn't paying attention to the guest and wasn't participating in the conversation. Mommy asked Ryu if he wasn't going to say anything. She wondered if it was really that hard to be polite. He was acting rude and uncouth, not even trying to show any manners. Sho joined in and asked if he was really going to keep quiet. Doesn't he want to meet the girl who returned his lost phone and thank her? He acted as though he was alone and didn't hear anyone around him. But then, reluctantly, he said, his name was Seda Yoryu. Eiko couldn't believe it, but finally he spoke, and she heard his voice. It was her turn to introduce herself. She said her name was Aiko Kasugawa, a first-year student from Class B, and it was nice for her to meet them. She met Ryu's cold gaze and wondered why he always looked at her like that. She didn't understand what he thought of her. It bothered her, and she didn't know how to behave or what she could ask him. Mommy told the girl not to be surprised by their identical surname. Ryu is just her cousin. But that doesn't mean they're the same age. Even though they're in the same class, Ryu is older than them. They've been close since childhood, so age didn't matter. Eiko understood everything now. This explained why they were always together. This was also why he seemed older than the other guys. He looked more serious and didn't participate in childish pranks. Sho suddenly said that he would never have thought that Eiko would help Mommy with documents and that he had just found out about it. He asked why the girl was shopping alone. She replied that her friends had their own business today, so she decided to go to the store by herself. She thanked the guys for the lunch invitation. She thought that today she would have to eat something on discount. Sho smiled and said that the girl shouldn't call him senpai, as it made him feel older than he actually was. Mommy got annoyed and told him to shut up immediately. She ignored him and kept being angry, even when Sho said he was joking and asked why she was so upset. No matter what these guys said, Ryu just sat quietly and didn't worry about anyone else. Eiko wondered what he was thinking and what was troubling him. It was hard to read his emotions from his expression. She caught herself staring at him, unable to look away. Mommy suggested they go for a walk before heading home. There was a new bubble tea shop nearby, and she really wanted to try it. Eiko couldn't stay out too late since her dorm was far from the city center. She didn't want to travel in the dark. Mommy offered to give her a ride, and Sho supported it. If she invited her, she should take responsibility and make sure she got home safely. After all, it was dangerous for her to go alone. He also wouldn't mind giving the girl a ride to the dorm. Mommy assured her that he wouldn't harm her, so she should just let him take her home. Eiko agreed, although she hadn't planned to stay for long. She enjoyed spending time with their company. Eiko savored the delicious dinner. The food here was truly exquisite. Mommy suggested they order something else delicious. She told the girl not to be shy and order whatever she wanted. Eiko declined, thanking her, saying she had already eaten enough and didn't want anything more. Mommy sighed and asked if she was the only one who liked bubble tea. Sho noticed the girl was holding a heavy bag and asked if it was too heavy. He offered to help. She declined, saying it wasn't heavy at all and that she didn't even feel it on her shoulders. She thought to herself that Sho-senpai was so kind. Mommy told the girl not to be shy and let the guy carry her things. She added that if Sho hadn't been there, she would have to carry her own bag, since Ryu didn't have good manners. Mommy told Eiko that Ryu might seem unapproachable, but she shouldn't be fooled by his appearance. She said that he was not at all like he might seem, and that she shouldn't be fooled by his good looks. Suddenly, Ryu said that he could hear everything Mommy was saying, and that if she wanted to keep saying bad things about him, she'd better shut her mouth. He then told Sho that he should stop Mommy whenever she says such awful things. While Mommy was teasing the guys, her order was ready. Although the girl says not to be friends with him, that's just her opinion since they've been friends since childhood. But why did Eiko feel like she needed to get to know him? Maybe things would change once she understood him better. Maybe he wouldn't be so cold towards her as he was today. They were walking past a claw machine, and Mommy asked the girl what was going on and why she was staring at it so intently. Did she like soft toys and want to win one? Mommy wondered. She suggested Sho try playing the claw machine and win a plush toy. She would pay for everything. Eiko had just paused for a moment. Did they think she wanted a stuffed toy? Sho wasn't a professional at these machines, but he decided to try to please the girls. The girls noticed the cute bunny with a big carrot and suggested to Sho to try and get that one. He almost succeeded. He managed to grab it, but now it just needed to be brought to the window. But on the way, the toy fell. It didn't work out. They almost won, but they really wanted this specific toy. They decided to try again. While they were trying to win the toy, Ryu was watching them from the side. Was he really coming over? This couldn't be. He never approached machines like these, thinking they were a pointless waste of time. He told Sho to step aside and said that the guy was just wasting his time. Ryu added that he was pressing the button too hard. The guy grumbled that they couldn't even beat a toy machine and told everyone to calm down and not distract him. Eiko couldn't believe her eyes. Did he really decide to help the girls get the plush toy they liked? He carefully grabbed the toy and slowly lifted it toward the window. He succeeded on the first try, and the toy was almost in their hands. Mommy shouted joyfully, thanks to him. She didn't know he was so skilled with the machines. She thought he only had a pretty face and no other talents. She handed the cute bunny to Eiko. Even though she hadn't won it herself, it was nice to give her a toy a girl liked. They considered heading home since it was almost getting dark. He probably thought it was a pointless waste of time, which is why he spoke so sharply, Eiko thought. But even if that was the case, he did his best to win the toy for her. Mommy walked ahead holding her bubble tea. She didn't notice how she tripped, spilling her drink everywhere. Her clothes were drenched in her favorite drink. She got angry. First, she spilled her bubble tea, and second, her clothes were all stained. She was wet and sticky. Sho suggested Mommy go to the bathroom and clean herself up. She didn't know where to go and asked for help finding the restroom. The boy had no choice but to take her there himself. She told Eiko to stay with Ryu. She and Sho would be back very quickly. Eiko had no choice but to stay with Ryu. Ryu wasn't thrilled by the idea of staying alone with her. They stood silently, watching Mommy and Sho walk off in search of the restroom. They felt awkward, and both wanted their friends to return as soon as possible. Right now, they were alone together. Eiko, embarrassed, stood there, tightly holding her purchases. She didn't like the uncomfortable atmosphere. Even though they were together, it was very quiet and tense. Besides, he was just sitting there, always on his phone, and she didn't know how to approach him. It felt like he was avoiding conversation with her. A message from Sho appeared on Ryu's phone. If they kept silent like this, the whole atmosphere would be ruined. So she needed to make the first move. Not knowing what to say, she first decided to thank him for getting her the cute toy, but he wasn't listening to her. When she tried to talk to him, he simply stood up and walked away in silence. She called after him, but he didn't even turn around, just kept walking. She was surprised and asked where he was going. Wasn't he going to wait for their friends here? She didn't know what to do. They had promised to wait for their friends here, not to leave. Where was he going and why had he left her alone? The guy walked towards the elevator. Eiko didn't understand, but it seemed like he was going somewhere using the elevator. Should she go with him or wait? She stood there confused, not knowing what was going on or what was the right thing to do. She needed to decide whether to wait for the others or go with Ryu on the elevator so she wouldn't get lost in the mall. Finally, he explained that he had received a message asking him to wait for them downstairs. He asked why she was standing there and not coming with him. She understood and hurried to catch up with him on the elevator. She had doubts if they had really gone downstairs, but why hadn't anyone mentioned this before? They still didn't know what to talk about, riding down in silence. On the 4th floor, the elevator stopped. The elevator doors opened, but Eiko stayed standing in the middle of the passage. Ryu abruptly grabbed her by the backpack and pulled her to the side. Didn't she understand that people wanted to get in the elevator, but she was standing in the way, blocking them? She apologized, realizing she hadn't reacted in time. An awkward position again and felt like a complete fool. Ryu continued standing silently, his gaze directed somewhere far away. Was this happening again? From embarrassment, her face turned even redder. Looking down, she noticed how tiny her feet were compared to the boys' feet. Why did all these people come in now? Because their bodies were so close. But he didn't seem to care. He showed no emotions. He didn't care what was happening at that moment. She could smell his perfume, and it seemed like he used the kind of scent that mature men wore. They were already on the 1st floor. All that was left was to wait for their friends. Eiko searched her bag for the toy Ryu had won for her, but couldn't find it. Finally, after taking it out, she thanked the guy for getting her this particular toy, as she really liked it because it was cute. But she thought to herself that she shouldn't spend money on it too often, as it's not always possible to win something interesting or valuable. Unexpectedly, a beautiful woman approached her, telling her that a new beauty studio had opened nearby, offering discounts. They had skincare, hair treatments, and much more. She offered a couple of flyers in case Eiko wanted to invite her significant other. Eiko declined, saying she wasn't with her significant other, thanked the woman, and refused. Even the guy listened to the conversation and seemed interested in the stranger's offer. The woman urged Eiko to take at least a few flyers, noticing that the guy sitting next to her was very handsome, like a model. She said Eiko was lucky to have such a guy. The girl blushed again, feeling embarrassed. She felt awkward, but realized that she really was sitting next to a handsome blonde, and people probably thought they were together. For a moment, she thought it wouldn't be so bad if he really were her significant other. Everything the woman said was pure truth. It felt like he really was a model. He was about 185 centimeters tall and looked like a mixed-race person. Eiko wondered if he had a girlfriend, but when the stranger called him her significant other, it seemed like he didn't care. He didn't even react or deny her words. Unexpectedly, Ryu asked Eiko if she was also losing her mind over his good looks. She replied, "Not really," and without thinking, she started looking at him. She really didn't like the atmosphere. Sitting in complete silence felt wrong and uncomfortable. Finally, Mommy and Sho returned. They apologized for making them wait so long. They had spent a lot of time cleaning Mommy's sweater. Sho said they could have just taken it off and flipped it inside out, and the problem would have solved itself. But it was her favorite piece of clothing, and she didn't want it to get ruined. Ryu said they had spent too much time and needed to head home since it was almost dark. He looked at Eiko and said she had been complaining about being bored, just sitting and waiting. Eiko didn't understand why he said that, as she had never said anything like that to him. They decided that Sho would drive Eiko home, and Ryu and Mommy would go together. He would take care of her, and once she reached the dorm, he would text her. She quickly got back to her dorm, as walking would have been too long and scary. She was very tired, so she quickly lay down in bed. However, she couldn't fall asleep. Her thoughts about tonight were mixed. She was bothered by why Ryu said that she had complained about being bored, just sitting and waiting. Although the only person who seemed to be sad was him. While they were driving home with Sho, Aiko tried to learn more about Seita Yoryu. What kind of person was he? And why was he always so cold and harsh? From what Sho knew, Ryu had been like this since the beginning of their friendship. He usually never cared about anything. He was cold because he didn't want anyone to ruin his life. Aiko listened carefully to Sho. He continued his story, saying that when they were children, Ryu always talked about adult topics that other kids couldn't really understand. Sometimes he was so closed off that he preferred to keep his feelings to himself. That's why no one really knew what was going on in his heart. There must be some reason why Ryu had different views, but she couldn't understand why he was so wary of people and pushed them away from him. A new school day started and all the students rushed to their lessons. Eiko and Risa-chan were also heading to class. The girl apologized to her friend for not helping her carry her things to the dormitory yesterday. Eiko didn't think it was a problem, as she could help her next time. Why did Eiko respond like that? She had always needed her help, but this time she was confident she could manage on her own. Risa-chan noticed a new toy hanging from her friend's bag. She didn't remember Eiko having that keychain. She asked if she had really been shopping or if she had been somewhere else. Of course, Eiko had gone shopping, but she had stopped somewhere and did something. Risa-chan became curious about where she had been and what she had done, especially why she hadn't told her about it. Eiko smiled and said she wouldn't tell her, even if she offered her money. Risa-chan became upset because she didn't understand what Eiko was talking about. Did she really have secrets from her best friend now? They were almost at their classroom, but the conversation wasn't over yet. The girl was a second-year student in Class B. Meanwhile, senpais and mommy were in Class A. Their classrooms were next to each other, so she could peek into the classroom of the senpais. She would be able to see Ryu again. Maybe she could ask him about their conversation from yesterday. Risa-chan asked if Eiko was feeling okay since her friend hadn't been responding when she spoke to her. Eiko replied that everything was fine and not to worry about her. Risa-chan asked if she could visit her during lunch. Eiko said, of course she could, as she was free and didn't have any extra lessons. There was a commotion near Class 2A. One of the girls was saying that she had made up with her boyfriend, and another was happy for her, although she was once again alone. Ryu and mommy were waiting for their lesson. It was so boring today, and to make it worse, it was hot. Mommy scrolled through her social media feed but found nothing new. Sho, being a well-behaved boy, was doing his homework, and it was a bit annoying. He was sitting with his headphones on, not hearing anyone. And Ryu was just sitting quietly, not talking to anyone. How could he be friends with these two borefests? Mommy wanted to meet Eiko again. It would have been nice if she had taken her chat ID earlier. She could have texted her to ask if she was free today. Ryu suddenly jumped up and was about to leave the class. Mommy was surprised and asked where he was going. He angrily said he was going out for a smoke, not understanding why she always asked about every move he made. It really annoyed him. She asked him to grab something for her on the way, like chocolate sticks or strawberry jelly, but he told her he didn't take orders and that if she wanted something, she could go and buy it herself. The girl got angry and replied that since he was talking like this, the next time he asked her for something, she would respond in the same way. As Ryu was leaving, a classmate grabbed his hand and asked where he was going, wanting him to stay with them a little longer, as they occasionally saw each other and she wanted to get closer to him. He knew nothing good would come from this conversation. He didn't like girls who didn't respect themselves and who threw themselves at everyone. He didn't want to continue the conversation or explain anything to her. He jerked his hand away, not wanting to be near her. He had nothing to talk about with a girl like her. She felt hurt, not understanding why Ryu didn't want to talk to her. After all, she was one of the most beautiful girls in school. And this always happened. Girls wanted to know which kind of girls Ryu actually liked. He sat next to the hottest girl in the school, and he ignored her. Maybe he liked girls who flirted more, or she could try approaching Sho. It would be much easier with him than with Ryu. Sho was handsome, but she didn't like boring guys like him. He wasn't interesting. Compared to Ryu, his taste in girls was much better, but she decided to leave these boring guys for Mommy. If they got involved with him, Mommy would definitely get in between them. The day was sunny, and Eiko didn't want to be in class. Walking outside seemed to be the best thing today, but lessons were ahead. The birds were singing outside, and she didn't want to study at all. Finally, she finished her homework, and it was time to stretch her hands. Risa-chan must have been waiting for her for a long time. She thought to herself that it would be better to take Risa-chan with her and introduce her to the others. After all, their classrooms were next to each other, so they would be able to see each other and talk every day. Finally, she was happy because she had real friends now. People here weren't as bad as she had thought before. She had thought that she would never be able to make friends. In her thoughts, she didn't notice the group of boys walking past her. They walked close by to intentionally brush against her. They made a comment to Aiko, asking why she wasn't watching where she was going and that she needed to be more careful. Aiko, as always, apologized. The boys recognized her and asked, "Isn't that the girl from yesterday? Where's her loud, huge friend?" The girl stood still, understanding that the boys were still angry at them for what had happened yesterday. They were usually inseparable. Did they have a fight or what? The guys asked Aiko. It's a pity she's not here. They would have definitely gotten their revenge on her. One of the guys said that yesterday she really got on his nerves. He had grabbed Aiko's arm abruptly, making her wait and not rush. Did she really think he would let her go so easily? The girl started screaming and struggling, demanding that they let her go, threatening them by saying that they couldn't do anything to her. Unfortunately, there was no one nearby, but she still kept calling for help. One of the guys covered her mouth with his palm to stop her from shouting and drawing the attention of other students. He told her to shut up, warning that if she didn't want to get hurt, she had to do what he said. They threatened her with a utility knife. If they were going to face off, they would talk one-on-one and then he would let her go. Aiko was scared. She had faced problems before when people had hurt her and it was painful, but it had never gone this far. The guy told her that when he took his hand off her mouth, she wasn't supposed to scream. If she screamed, he wouldn't be responsible for what might happen to her. They were surprised that she was so obedient. They held her and suggested finding a quieter spot with no prying eyes. Up close, she was quite pretty, and she had a pleasant scent, one of the guys noticed. Another told him not to joke like that because he was scaring the girl. They noticed that Aiko was trembling with fear. They found it amusing and were pleased with themselves. They brought her to their beautiful classmate, saying they had found and brought the new girl. The girl looked at Aiko condescendingly. She was surprised how they managed to get her, since she always walked with her friend Risa-chan, who always protected her. They had been lucky to encounter her while they were skipping school. Fortunately, she was alone and didn't suspect any danger as she walked past them. It seemed like these two guys were interested in her. Of course, she was cute, and it appeared she didn't have a boyfriend. She looked innocent. Maybe the guys wanted to try something new. At that moment, not far from them, Ryu was standing and smoking in a secluded spot, unaware of what was happening. The lessons had long ended, but the school was still noisy as students stayed behind for extra classes. By this time, Aiko's lessons should have ended long ago, and she had no extra classes. She had sent a message a while ago saying she was on her way. By now, she should already be here. Risa-chan didn't understand where she was. Had she gone off on her own again without telling her? The girl decided to wait a little longer, but if she didn't arrive soon, she would go about her own business alone. The schoolyard was empty except for a group of boys. These were the ones who enjoyed picking on Aiko. One of the boys turned to the beautiful girl and said that he had brought the girl just as she had asked. The girl asked if he really wanted her to do something to her. Why hadn't he brought her friend here instead? It was disappointing that she had come alone. She couldn't believe it and felt let down. But even in this situation, she could come up with something interesting. She called over the boys who were interested in her, ANSD, said that the locker room was still empty. Aiko got scared because she didn't understand what she was talking about or what she meant. She pulled her hand away, saying that they had promised not to do anything strange to her. One of the boys smiled and said that he had never seen a bigger fool who would believe their words. The girl smirked slyly and said that this was inappropriate at school. But since he had already brought her here, they needed to find something else to do. She wasn't planning to touch or hurt her since she had come alone. She just wanted to play a game with her. The girl suggested playing a quiz, starting with an unexpected question. What colors of bras she preferred. Aiko couldn't believe it. Did they really care about such a question? Meanwhile, the beauty continued guessing. Pink, beige. Then she smirked and said that Aiko was so slim and petite that she probably hadn't even thought about such things. Aiko felt awkward and realized that it was better for her to leave quickly. But the boys seemed like they weren't finished talking yet. One of the boys lightly touched her hand, as if implying she shouldn't leave so soon. Hey, we're just talking. he said with a smile. Eiko wanted to leave and looked around for someone familiar, but there was no one nearby. They told her she could scream as much as she wanted, but no one would help her anyway. The girl yanked Aiko's arm, initially not wanting to hurt her, but threatening that if she moved again, it would be bad for her. Ryu, who had stepped out for a break, heard strange noises. "Let me go, help someone," the girl begged. He looked around and spotted the boys, thinking to himself that these troublemakers had found yet another target. The girl was trying to unbutton Aiko's jacket, wanting to embarrass her in front of everyone. Despite being slender, it seemed that the boys were interested in Aiko. She squinted her eyes, feeling more angered by the bullying than anything else. When Aiko was feeling weak, Risa-chan was always there to help her. But when she was alone, she just felt scared and allowed the bullying to continue. It made others look at her with pity. It made others feel sorry for her. The girl laughed mockingly, saying she didn't expect Aiko to be so skinny. It was embarrassing and uncomfortable because the teasing kept getting worse, and the bullies felt they could do anything. This time, Aiko couldn't let them treat her this way. She decided to stand up for herself. She grabbed the girl's hand and held it tightly. She didn't want to keep being so miserable, so she bit the bully's hand as hard as she could. The girl grimaced in pain, not expecting such a reaction from the timid Aiko. The bully screamed that this girl had bitten her really hard and ordered the boys to take Aiko away from her. The girl kept holding on with her teeth. The boys tried to pull her away from their friend. "Get away from her," they shouted, one of them grabbing her by the hair and pulling her back. He was trying to force Aiko to stop. They shouted to get further away from her. While the boys were holding Aiko back, the girl came up and slapped her across the face. One of the guys shouted, asking how dare she hurt his girlfriend. But Aiko was only defending herself, so she didn't see the problem in making the bully hurt, too. She was trembling, but satisfied that she had managed to protect herself. She couldn't understand why they treated her this way. Were they really sick people? At that moment, Ryu heard the boy cursing and saying that she had no right to look at them so arrogantly, and that she was annoying them. Then the girl's voice was heard, mocking as she said that it seemed they hadn't scared her enough yet. At that moment, the boy decided it was time for him to step in. The bully declared that she would make Aiko remember how she should behave. Ryu appeared just as the girl received another slap and froze in shock. He couldn't stand such behavior and couldn't understand what this small, modest girl had done to upset these people. She lost her balance and fell into the school pool. Ryu approached the troublemakers, asking what was going on. Aiko couldn't swim and splashed in the water, calling for help, but no one tried to save her. The bully said it wasn't her fault. The girl had tripped and fallen into the water herself. Ryu looked at the guys with a glare that made them shudder, and they decided to leave as quickly as possible. They decided to leave her there, hoping she could get out on her own. Before leaving, the girl said that if she told the teacher, she would have to deal with them again. She better be ready for new bruises. Ryu realized there was no point in explaining anything to them. People like them wouldn't listen to words. He didn't have time to waste on them. His new acquaintance needed help. Aiko was exhausted, and even though she tried to make things better, it just felt like everything was going wrong. The boy knew that she couldn't handle this on her own. He had to act. Why did everyone dream of getting into high school? Did they think they could escape all their problems? No matter what she did, people like Aiko would always be bullied. Would anyone ever help her, or would she be left alone? She already felt hopeless, like no one would save her. She felt someone holding her hand tightly, and for the first time, she had hope that she could be saved. Ryu tried to hold her steady. She was weak and barely able to breathe. Was she really going to die like this? Would everyone remember her as the poor girl who couldn't even survive in the school pool? Ryu couldn't let her die. This girl wasn't weak in spirit. He hugged her tightly, pulling her close, and began to rise to the surface. Risa-chan's face blurred in front of the girl as she anxiously said something, but her words seemed muffled, as if coming through a thick layer of water. Aiko opened and closed her eyes, letting out a quiet groan as she tried to regain consciousness. The girl gently stroked her shoulders and anxiously pleaded with her friend to wake up. Before Risa-chan discovered her friend, the following happened. Ryu's hand firmly gripped the railing as he pulled himself up, emerging from the pool. He rested one knee on the edge, holding the unconscious girl as he climbed out of the water, gasping for breath. The boy laid the girl down on the ground and started gently slapping her cheeks, frantically urging her to wake up. But she remained motionless, her breathing faint and unsteady. He leaned over her, pressing 2 fingers against her neck, desperately searching for a pulse. Finally, he felt weak throbs, but by then, the girl had already stopped breathing. He had no choice. He had to act fast. Pressing his lips to hers, he carefully held her chin with one hand while pinching her nose shut with the other. He began breathing air into her, refusing to let life slip away from her. He continued performing mouth to mouth until he felt her lips warm up. And then, suddenly, the girl took a deep breath. Ryu felt a wave of relief and joy as the girl began to cough up water and greedily gasp for air. Eiko opened her eyes slightly, but the world around her was blurry, and she couldn't understand what was happening. She could only see a blurred silhouette, both familiar and unfamiliar to her at the same time. The girl heard someone say her name. She thought to herself that if this person knew her name, then she must know who they are too. Moreover, she felt a gentle hand caressing her cheek, sending warmth throughout her body. Ryu, with a sigh of relief, thought to himself, "Thank goodness she's come to." He continued to gently stroke her face, never taking his eyes off her, silently hoping she would fully recover soon. To be continued. Thank you for watching. Please support our channel by subscribing and liking. More to come.